While NASA stays silent and the world argues over classified files, China just dropped the kind of evidence that flips everything we thought we knew about interstellar visitors. Between October 1st and 4th, 2025, their Tianwen-1 probe built to study Martian sand, not deep space, mysteries somehow captured a crystal-clear image of an object racing through our solar system that should not exist. One frame from nearly 29 million kilometers away revealed a glowing halo, thousands of kilometers wide, wrapped around a nucleus so symmetrical, so unnaturally perfect, scientists froze when they saw it. And here's the terrifying part. NASA also photographed this same object with a camera 10 times more powerful. But those images are still locked behind closed doors. Insiders whisper it's because the patterns inside the coma don't look random, they look engineered, almost like geometry drifting through space with purpose. China released everything, NASA released nothing. And now, the question shaking every major space agency on Earth is simple. Did we just witness an interstellar visitor, or the arrival of something alive, intelligent, and far more advanced than us? What made China's breakthrough so shocking wasn't just the discovery itself, but the sheer impossibility of how they captured it. Tianwen-1 was never designed to chase faint objects drifting through deep space. It was a Martian surveyor built to photograph dunes, polar ice, and rust-colored dust storms. Yet, during the first week of October 2025, engineers at the China National Space Administration manually recalibrated every system on that probe, turning a planet-mapping machine into an interstellar hunter. For 4 days straight, they tracked a tiny, dim, unpredictable target racing tens of kilometers per second through a star-filled backdrop where a single miscalculation would mean losing it forever. But on October 3rd, everything aligned. From roughly 28.96 million kilometers away, Tianwen-1 captured an image so sharp it stunned its own mission team. The nucleus wasn't jagged like a normal comet. It was compact and radiant, almost sculpted, wrapped in a coma stretching several thousand kilometers across with symmetry that looked anything but accidental. Chinese scientists called it a once-in-a-lifetime frame, a cosmic messenger frozen in motion as it passed Mars like a silent traveler from another system. And as they celebrated the clearest image humanity had ever taken of an interstellar visitor, one chilling truth became impossible to ignore. China had revealed what NASA refused to show. If China's image shocked the world, NASA's reaction terrified it. Because while Tianwen-1 was uploading data for the entire planet to see, NASA's own Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter had already captured images far sharper, far closer, and far more detailed, yet none of them were released. Officially, the agency blamed the U.S. government shutdown. But inside Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the real story sounded nothing like bureaucratic delay. Engineers whispered that the high-rise frames didn't show a normal comet at all. They showed patterns. Structured reflections. Light bending around the nucleus in shapes too precise, too geometric, too deliberate to be explained by random ice outgassing. According to multiple leaks, the object's coma wasn't just glowing. It looked organized, almost patterned, as if the surface wasn't rough and uneven like natural interstellar debris, but smooth, aligned, and responsive to light in ways that felt engineered. Even the object's reflectivity didn't behave like frozen rock. It shifted in controlled pulses, tiny changes that lined up with its strange acceleration patterns already flagged by Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard, who pointed out that 3I Atlas moved more like something adjusting itself than something drifting freely. The silence from NASA suddenly made sense in the worst possible way, because if you release images that look artificially shaped, you don't spark curiosity, you spark chaos. And while China openly drove the narrative, NASA hid behind locked servers and closed-door meetings, guarding the clearest look humanity ever had at an interstellar visitor. As NASA hid behind silence, China did the unthinkable. They filled the void. Instead of waiting for committees or approvals, the China National Space Administration began releasing data piece by piece, high-resolution stills, brightness curves, spectral readings, even raw frame captures from Tianwen-1's tracking sequence. Each new release hit the scientific community like a shockwave. These weren't vague shapes or blurred pixels. They were clear, structured, and strange. The coma wasn't chaotic like dust blowing off a comet. It had density, layers, and subtle internal reflections, shifting from frame to frame, as if something inside was moving with intention. Chinese analysts labeled them spectral anomalies, a diplomatic way of saying, "We don't know what this is, and we're not pretending otherwise." And suddenly the entire world, astronomers, universities, private space agencies turned to Beijing for answers instead of Washington. For the first time in modern space history, China became the primary source of information about an interstellar object. That alone felt historic. But the impact in Washington was explosive, because the U.S. wasn't just behind, they were blind. NASA's refusal to release their own images looked less like caution and more like concealment. Lawmakers, scientists, even former NASA directors began publicly demanding transparency. The global space race flipped overnight. China looked confident, open, and scientifically fearless. NASA looked shaken, defensive, and overwhelmed. The shift was so sudden that by mid-October, analysts began calling it the space transparency crisis, a new kind of Cold War fought not over rockets or satellites, but over information itself. China was pushing out findings almost daily. NASA was holding emergency internal reviews just to decide what they could safely admit, and as each day passed, 3i Atlas became more than a cosmic visitor. It became a geopolitical flashpoint forcing every major space agency on Earth to choose a side, share what you know, or stay silent and look guilty. By late October, the situation had spiraled far beyond science. What began as quiet frustration inside NASA morphed into a political firestorm that Washington could no longer hide. Every major newsroom in the country was broadcasting the same question: why is China releasing everything while NASA releases nothing? That pressure detonated on October 31st, when Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna went public with a letter that hit NASA like a direct strike. She demanded the immediate release of all 3i Atlas data, accusing the agency of withholding critical scientific information and possibly hiding the true nature of the object behind shutdown excuses. Her letter wasn't polite, it wasn't coded, it wasn't political theater. It was a direct accusation that NASA was hiding something the world had a right to see. Overnight, the letter went viral. Scientists cheered, lawmakers argued, and for the first time in decades, NASA found itself on the defensive, not over budgets or missions, but over honesty. Behind closed doors, the panic was real. NASA officials were dragged into private briefings with congressional staff, forced to explain why the most advanced camera in Mars orbit had produced images no one outside the agency was allowed to view. Insiders hinted that the room grew tense when the true reasons for the delay were discussed, reasons that went far beyond simple bureaucracy. Meanwhile, China kept releasing data with perfect timing, each new frame, each brightness measurement, each anomaly report making NASA's silence look more suspicious. And as Beijing positioned itself as the champion of scientific transparency, the United States looked paralyzed by fear of what its own images contained. The term space transparency crisis wasn't an exaggeration anymore. It was the new reality. NASA's credibility was cracking, political pressure was rising, and the global audience was watching the U.S. stumble in a domain it once dominated. In the span of weeks, a quiet interstellar visitor had triggered hearings, accusations, and a battle for scientific trust. By early November, something bizarre happened. 3i Atlas was no longer behaving like a regular comet. As it swept past the sun, the object didn't follow the typical cometary script. Instead of dimming or disintegrating as expected, it grew brighter. It turned bluer, electrically blue. Scientists watching the data were stunned. This wasn't just a visual effect. Something about the object was fundamentally different. It was glowing with an intensity that couldn't be explained by simple reflection or the usual solar heating. And then came the real mystery. The object was pulsing. Its glow brightened, then faded in perfect cycles, almost like a heartbeat. The rhythm didn't match the object's predicted spin rate, which meant it wasn't rotating in a traditional way. It was as though something inside was generating its own light, feeding off solar radiation like a living organism. The light emitted wasn't random. It was controlled and deliberate, as if something was powering the object from within, using the sun itself as an energy source. The implications were enormous. Could an interstellar object really be alive? Could it be using the sun's radiation to regenerate, feeding on stellar plasma in a way we've never seen before? The idea that 3i Atlas was some form of biotechnology, or a biological object capable of sustaining itself in space, started to gain traction among certain researchers. If this wasn't a comet, then what was it? And why was it now more alive than ever? Meanwhile, amateur astronomers, equipped with nothing but their own telescopes, began to notice similar oddities. Their footage showed the same pulsing light, the same change in color, the same unexplainable behavior that scientists were desperately trying to decode. 3I Atlas wasn't just another passing rock. It was doing things no object from our solar system or any known comet had ever done. It was almost as if the object was adapting, adjusting its behavior as it neared the Sunday. As 3I Atlas continued its baffling behavior, two radical theories emerged that would change everything we thought we knew about this interstellar object. Theory A living organism the size of Manhattan. The first theory was as mind-blowing as it was unsettling. What if 3I Atlas is alive? What if this massive object, the size of Manhattan, wasn't just a piece of space debris, but a biological entity traveling between stars? Researchers argued that the way it moved smoothly almost deliberately resembled the behavior of a paramecium, a single-celled organism. They pointed out the cyclical pulses of its glow and its ability to feed off solar radiation, as though it were a living creature harvesting energy the way plants use sunlight. Some even suggested that before its close pass by the sun, the object may have been hiding in a metallic shell, a cocoon of sorts, protecting itself from extreme space conditions. Once it reached perihelion, it opened up, absorbing solar energy to regenerate, feeding directly on the star's plasma. This theory suggested that 3I Atlas was not only alive but capable of interstellar survival, perhaps even thriving in conditions too harsh for any known rock or metal. The strange blue glow, the pulsing cycles, the behavior of its coma, everything pointed to an organism, not a comet, doing something biologically impossible. Theory B, hybrid biotech craft. The second theory was even stranger. What if 3I Atlas wasn't purely biological? What if it was a fusion of organic life and technology, a hybrid object, with a living core and engineered propulsion systems? This idea would explain its bizarre acceleration patterns and its unnatural behavior after perihelion. If 3I Atlas were a biotech hybrid, it could have a biological core powering a synthetic outer shell capable of interstellar travel. This would also explain its precision movement and energy-absorbing properties, something no natural comet could ever achieve. Some scientists, including those at Harvard, argued that 3I Atlas might be a self-powered spacecraft not built by nature, but by an advanced civilization capable of engineering living ships. A craft that fed on solar radiation, used it to recharge, and could even self-repair, adapting its behavior to survive in the harsh conditions of space. The challenge to science fiction. Both theories were explosive. The first suggested we had found a living organism, the second, a hybrid of life and technology. Either way, what 3I Atlas represented was a paradigm shift, a challenge to everything we believed about life and space exploration. The more the scientific community dug into the data, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a comet, this was a discovery that could change the course of history. Whether alive, engineered, or both, it was something we had never seen before. But here's the most terrifying part. These theories weren't just academic anymore, they were real. And as scientists around the world scrambled for answers, one undeniable fact emerged. 3I Atlas was evolving faster than our ability to understand it. As 3I Atlas continued its journey through the solar system, something even more unsettling happened. Its trajectory began to change. The object, initially thought to be on a path that would carry it harmlessly past Earth, suddenly deviated slightly, just enough to send a ripple of fear through the scientific community. By mid-November, astronomers began noticing small but significant shifts in its path. Although 3I Atlas had passed its closest approach to the Sun, the object's trajectory had begun to bend in ways gravity alone couldn't explain. Something else was at work, whether it was internal propulsion, some sort of unseen force, or a strange interaction with other cosmic bodies. The object was not following the predicted path, and now it was heading dangerously close to Earth's orbit. This small but critical shift could have dire consequences. The object's closest approach to Earth was now slated for December 19th, 2025, just 6 days before Christmas. While it was still 7 million kilometers away, a safe distance, scientists like Dr. Avi Loeb warned that even the smallest deviation could change everything. If 3I Atlas were to encounter Jupiter's gravitational field, it might be pulled further inward, dangerously altering its course. A direct collision could release energy equivalent to millions of nuclear bombs, enough to wipe out entire regions, trigger global climate changes, and shift Earth's atmosphere in ways we can't even predict. The situation was no longer just about scientific curiosity. it was about survival. The object that had once seemed like a distant mystery was now inching closer to Earth, and the stakes had never been higher. But the real question wasn't whether it would impact Earth, it was whether humanity was prepared for what would happen next. 3i Atlas has forced us to confront questions we never imagined answering in our lifetimes. Is it a natural interstellar object, a comet, a rock, or something else entirely? Or could it be something far more sophisticated, even alive, drifting through space with purpose? The theories are wild, the stakes are high, and the answers remain elusive. As the object draws closer to Earth, the world watches, gripped by a mystery that's as old as the stars themselves. Whether it's a biological entity, a hybrid of life and technology, or something far beyond our understanding, 3i Atlas has turned the space race into a race for truth. And with NASA's silence, China's lead, and the object's strange behavior, the world's most important question might not be about what 3i Atlas is, but why it's here, and what happens when it reaches Earth. As humanity stands on the edge of this unprecedented moment, we are left wondering, are we ready for the answers that are coming, or for the consequences?